Hey everybody, welcome to Howdy Partner. We're bringing on Select Star today. Our partners over there. What is Howdy Partner? We bring on our partners, highlight their solutions, show what stuff actually looks beyond the diagrams, beyond the architecture. James again. Thank you, AM. I'm joined today with my co-host Sarah. How are you doing today, Sarah?
Hello, everybody. This is Sarah Aamir, and thank you so much, James, for giving me this opportunity to join you on this awesome live show, Howdy Partner. And I'm doing well, very well. How about yourself?
Good, good. I'm traveling today, so forgive the guerrilla style videography. Um, but it's
I
all
see that.
good. We're here for the content. We're not here for me. We're here for Select Star
Absolutely.
for sure. So,
Indeed.
Sarah, was there anything else you wanted to tell us about Select Star?
Sure, absolutely. I'm glad you asked. There is awesome information about Select Star I would like to give you on since about this Howdy Partner show. Select Star is our partner guest on this hot seat today, where they will be given an opportunity to demonstrate awesome features of their product, which they have built on AWS certainly. And please welcome with me Alec Bialosky and Sean Anderson from Select Star to our live Howdy Partner show.
Hey guys, how you doing?
So before
Fantastic.
before we move on, a little bit of a background about them. I would love to flaunt. SelectStar is an intelligent automated data discovery platform which analyzes and documents your data. And not only that, but it also provides you an easy to use data portal which everyone can leverage to find and understand data. SelectStar connects directly to data warehouses and business intelligence tools to fetch metadata, query, history, and activity logs from each data source. So basically, using SelectStar, customers can build metrics, definitions, and workflows so they can organize and describe their data across all their data tools from one central or master data location, I would say. So stay tuned with us to witness a deep dive demonstration from our Select Star team here. Over to you, Sean and Alec.
Thank you so much, Sarah and James, for welcoming us here on the show. First and foremost, we want to thank you and the entire AWS team. SelectStar is really dedicated to helping AWS users optimize their cloud journey by helping them identify data sets across all of the different AWS managed services, which we know with the scale companies are working with today, that's no easy task. So we're here to help. A couple housekeeping items before I turn it over to my colleague, Alec, to take you through the platform. He's going to talk to you a little bit about the problems that we solve for data engineers and analysts, show you a little bit about the SelectStar product, and give you a short demonstration. But for everybody out there in the Twitch community, we absolutely want to hear from you during this presentation. Feel free to throw us your questions. We're here to answer any questions that you might have. My name's Sean Anderson. I'm head of Director of Product Marketing here at SelectStar, and really happy to be joining you today. And with that, I will hand it over to my colleague, Alec, to get us started.
Thanks, Sean, and thanks, James and Sarah, for setting this up. I'm very excited to be talking with you all and telling you more about SelectStar. James, do you want to share the slides I've got up?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks. So real quick, what does SelectStar do? We make data easy. And so the platform is designed to save data teams and organizations time and money by making it really simple to find, understand, and manage their data, reduce the burden on data teams by enabling self-service analytics, and increasing trust and transparency into the data and how it's being used within your organization. We're trusted by a wide range of businesses from Fortune 500s like Pitney Bowes, unicorns and recently public companies like Open Door and Block, all the way down to commercial businesses, startups, anyone who's really looking to harness their data. A little bit about the company before we jump in. We're headquartered in San Francisco, but we're a fully remote and globally distributed team. So we've got folks in, I want to say 3 countries, maybe 4 countries in Europe, Brazil, the US and Canada, and we're growing. So if you like what you see or are interested in learning more, feel free to reach out. Company was founded by our CEO, Shinji Kim, who spent over a decade in the data space. Her previous company was Concord Systems. They were focused on distributed stream processing, which I don't know what that means, but I'm told it's data related. They were purchased by Akamai, and she worked there for a little bit when she kind of figured out the challenges companies were facing with all their data, which is the genesis of SelectStar. And we're backed by top tier VCs like Lightspeed, Bowery, Pebblebed, etc. And a little more about me. I lead business operations. I joined the company about a year ago, really focused on go-to-market. So I spend most of my time working with customers and prospects to get them up to speed on SelectStar and make sure they're able to solve their data discovery challenges.
So you guys have been, from when we were talking before, you've been growing like really like an exponential rate. Sean, I don't know what you mentioned, like hired like 75% more people in the last 3 months or something. Like you guys have been exploding.
Yeah, I think that would be directionally correct. So just this last couple of weeks, we announced our Series A funding round, which was led by our partners at Lightspeed Venture and Bowery Capital. And really that funding round represents a new era of growth at SelectStar, which is really aimed at solving all of these challenges from our customer base and also looking kind of forward thinking to the realms of data meshes and data observability, and build out those capabilities as they start to become kind of like modern realities for our customers.
Nice. That's so cool. Sorry, Alec, I didn't want to trip you up. I just remembered Sean mentioned that the other day.
No problem at all. Yeah. So we are hiring across go-to-market and engineering and product roles. So if anyone's interested, feel free to reach out. So what are we going to cover today? I'm going to talk a little bit about why we feel data discovery is important, how modern organizations are using these new tools like SelectStar to solve the challenges they're facing. We're going to get under the hood and talk about how SelectStar actually works. And then we're going to walk through the product, and I'm going to show you how SelectStar can hook into your AWS services, BI tools, etc., to make data easy for you. And then we'll definitely save time for Q&A at the end. So changes to the way companies are managing their data over the past 10 years have really led to the need for data discovery platforms. And we think there's really like three main tailwinds here. First is growth of data in the cloud. So if you think about, a modern organization, it's got data being created from all these different data sources: production DBs, third-party data, application data, sensor data, and all of that is getting aggregated into a single repository, very commonly in the cloud, like AWS Redshift. It starts in S3, goes to Redshift. And once it's there, you can do a lot of cool things with it. But just based on the scale of the data companies have, it's really hard to find the needle in the haystack, know exactly what you're looking for. Is this the right field to be using? Is this the right table? So it creates a lot of challenges. There's also this concept of the decentralization of data ownership. So historically, a company would have a data team, all requests for data flow through them. They know the data model like the back of their hand and can share it out. That's okay, but it's hard to be really agile and use data efficiently when you're not a subject matter expert. So what we're seeing is companies are now moving to an embedded model where HR and product and finance, they all have designated data folks on those teams who are subject matter experts and can do whatever's needed for their org with the data. But it creates silos within the organization and the opportunity for misalignment on key terms, metrics. People are trying to calculate the same thing, and they're using two different underlying data sets, and there's no single place to go to find all those answers. And then lastly is the proliferation of modern BI tools. So democratization of data access. Everyone can jump into Tableau or QuickSight or Looker and pull up a dashboard or build their own report. And again, this creates a lot of questions about what is the underlying data and opportunities for misalignment across the organization. So when we talked to companies, we realized this was a huge challenge. People are trying to figure out, where did data come from? Why does my number look different from you? Do we even have this data? Can I trust this data, et cetera? There's just a ton of data questions that pop up, and it becomes a burden to the data teams who now have to play IT or tech support to data users within the organization. And that's not their job. That's not what they like to do. So there's a real challenge here companies are facing as they try and scale both the amount of data and the number of people with access to data in their organization. So if you think about, how do these questions get solved today? I'm a data analyst or a data scientist, and I have a question about my data. What do? You either reach out to the subject matter expert in a one-on-one message, which doesn't create any sort of tribal knowledge for the organization. It just allows you to know it. But when the next person has that question, they're going to have to track down the subject matter expert, if they even know who that is, and ask that question again. Maybe you send out a lava question grenade into your data Slack channel where you don't know who's responsible for answering it. The buck can get passed to other people. No one really knows what data it relates to, etc. Or you go and try and figure it out on your own. You search through GitHub or look through job logs. You try and parse the SQL queries on your own to get these insights. And that's really, really time intensive. So there's not a good way to answer these questions in most organizations today. The solutions to these problems that were around 2-3 years ago also just aren't adequate to solve it. Documentation in Notion or Confluence or G Sheets gets out of date really easily. It's not tied directly to your data assets. By the time you filled in the G Sheet for a table, the schema's changed, the column's been updated, and your documentation isn't correct. And there's no way to really understand that. So it becomes a constant job of trying to update and keep everything accurate. Custom solutions like Amundsen or DataHub rolled out of large businesses who had the resources to solve this problem on their own. LinkedIn, Uber, Lyft, they all solve this problem, release solutions to the open source community. But that still takes a lot of time and effort for organizations to roll those out. And if you think about it from a TCO perspective, total cost of ownership, the amount of time engineers are spending implementing, maintaining, updating these systems, it actually becomes just as expensive, or if not more expensive, than paying for a third-party tool where there's a dedicated team focused to building features and making the user experience as smooth as possible. And then lastly, there's enterprise data catalogs like Elation, Calibra. These are really powerful tools. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you they don't have a time and a place, but they were built for an on-prem world. And while they're migrating to the cloud, they don't play as nicely with the modern data stack. They're a little clunky. They're not designed for use by business users. They're pretty technical tools, and they require a big investment, both in the purchase price, but also in the time that goes into rolling it out, training people, and ultimately, we've heard doesn't deliver the best experience for customers who are really trying to solve this core problem of data discovery. So that's why we created SelectStar, basically to create a single source of truth for data across your organization where you can find data easily, understand the context behind it. And I'll talk more about what I mean by context, but it's lineage, it's usage, it's popularity, it's what domain does this data fall into? Is it PII? Is it approved for reporting? These are all things that SelectStar can tell you with the click of a button. We also wanted to create a place where it was really easy to document all of your data, where you could collaborate directly on those data sets and govern and manage data for your end users. So I want to pause, see if there's any questions before I jump into sort of the guts of how SelectStar works.
Yeah, I don't see any questions as of yet, but I do like your slide about having a single source of truth, especially when talking about all those different places data can come from, and you don't want to have, as you were saying earlier, those overlaps of those are mismatches of your data sets. Like, one person has this, one person has that, figure out what it means. And I know here at AWS, we always stress, like, especially with like auditing and logging, having a single central administrative domain. So I'm excited to kind of see how this kind of brings that all together just in that one spot myself. That's my take on it.
Yeah, for sure.
I was also curious, Alec, about to know that, interestingly, the same slide that James addressed, how all these different data or the entities are integrating. Is there a plugin mechanism, like you can extract and pull data for the ease of the client or the user? Like they don't have to push it or something like that.
We'll talk about that in this next section, but SelectStar is designed for delivering fast time to value. So it takes about 15 minutes to configure a data source. All you have to do is create a service account in Redshift, for example, and provide us with specific read-only permissions to your metadata. We're typically looking at system logs, user logs, and query logs. We don't actually have access to the raw data, which is great from a security perspective because we don't have to worry about dealing with those approvals. And for our customers, they don't have to worry about exposing us to their production data or sensitive information because we're only looking at that metadata layer. But so once we have those service accounts created, we'll run a query once a day against those query logs and system logs, which, because we're not actually querying the data, has very little impact on your AWS bill or your Snowflake bill. I've asked all our customers to tell me how much we're costing them, and it's a rounding error. No one has been able to give me a dollar value because the amount is so small. So we run that query, and then on the back end, we'll process all of that, and I'll get into that in a minute. And in less than 24 hours, you'll have a fully loaded instance ready to go.
That's awesome. That's good to know.
Cool. So how do we do this? Couple just high-level things about our approach. First is we're fully automated. So to your point, Sarah, integration takes less than a day, pretty much regardless of how much data you have. Configuration is an hour, and then the rest of that time is our system processing your metadata and generating those insights. We're continuously pulling data every 24 hours so that you always have an up-to-date view of your data model, and you don't have to worry about, well, I made this change to a schema or I created a new dashboard. Now I need to catalog it. We're going to take care of that automatically. Simple and easy to use. It's been designed not just for engineers, but also for product managers or people in the ops groups or business stakeholders who are trying to understand data or just looking for the report that they know they're supposed to be using. And ultimately, as we get more and more data and you get more and more documentation, we can become the system of record for all data within an organization. So where do we fit in? I want to just level set on like what modern data stack looks like. So typically you've got your, where we call it the data creation layer. This could be production databases, third-party data, et cetera. This is where data is being generated. Then that gets loaded through a process called ETL or ELT for most of our customers using a modern data stack, where they extract that information from those data creation sources and then push it into the storage layer, which is a data warehouse or a data lake. This could be S3, it could be Redshift, or it could be a different data warehouse that's running on top of AWS. Once it's there, typically it then undergoes some sort of transformation to create your data marts. So you are normalizing data, you're joining it together, you're adding in business logic and creating the final set of tables that are then going to be used for analytics. And that's what, your BI tools are pulling from, or you may be reverse ETLing it back out into your applications. So today, SelectStar sits on top of that data warehouse, data mart BI layer. We integrate with Redshift, Snowflake, Databricks, other Postgres, other data warehouses, as well as we have S3 coming online very soon. So starting to play with data lakes, ETL tools that operate on top of the data warehouse. So if you're doing your transformations in dbt, or if you're orchestrating it with Airflow, we're able to pick up all that information from your query logs. And then we also integrate directly with your BI tools. So that's where we sit today, really focused on the analytics and reporting use case. But over time, we're going to shift further left on this slide. So being able to integrate with ETL tools like Fivetran or Stitch to be able to see lineage back to those production systems, and eventually to the applications themselves, whether that's Salesforce or Segment or a production database. So how does it actually work though? What we do is we create those service accounts as I was telling Sarah earlier, and we get access to system metadata and query logs. And we do that either directly by querying the database, or we can pull it from an API. Like with Tableau, they have a metadata API. So we get all that information, and then we do two main things with it. First is we create a unified metadata store. So every data object, every database, every schema, every table, every column, every dashboard lives within SelectStar as its own unique object. And then we run all of your queries through our query parser, which is able to pick up on everything that's happening to that data. Is it being transformed? Is it being aggregated? Are you joining two tables together on these specific fields? And from those two processes, we're able to deliver insights like column level lineage, all the way from your source tables in Redshift down to the field or tile level in your BI tools. We're able to generate entity relationship diagrams so you can see how your tables are joined together automatically without having to rely on someone to designate primary and foreign keys. And we're also able to look at the usage to calculate popularity, so you can see what's the most relevant data, as well as understand who's accessing this data.
Yeah, by the way, I love that feature of yours here, the popularity. I'm glad you brought it up. It's pretty trendy and up to the times, like social media trending kind of a thing. So it's a nice one. I would encourage everybody to check that out as well. So thanks.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's one of the first things people look at when they get started with SelectStar. And we do offer a 2-week free trial, and we've had multiple customers who during that trial say, we were able to identify our CEO was using the wrong dashboard, because we could see his usage and the popularity of this deprecated dashboard still being used. So we're able to get that remediated thanks to SelectStar on day 3 of our free trial.
Oh gosh. That sounds like you could it'd be like a sitcom, like down, wow,
Yeah. Yeah, you hit the curb your enthusiasm music on that one for sure.
Yeah.
And so then we generate all these insights, and then we layer on top of that the ability to easily document your data, curate your data, create different groups of data assets for different teams, define data ownership, and apply governance. So that way SelectStar can become that single source of truth for data questions in your organization. So a lot of companies will claim to do a lot of the things that we do. And there's a couple things I think that set us apart. First is fast time to value, which I've talked about a couple of times. The second is the level of insights we're able to glean from your metadata, which is based on our query parser that we've been developing for over 3 years. And then lastly is just zero management, how easy it is to implement and maintain SelectStar. So I want to talk about each of these in a little more detail. Fast time to value. It's fully self-service. You can set up a free trial on our website in an hour. You'll have a fully loaded instance ready to go in less than a day. And we also have an open API that allows you to have full control of your metadata, both pushing information into SelectStar that maybe we're not pulling automatically or comes from different data sources that we don't integrate with today, but also extracting that information. So even though we host everything and manage it for you, it's your metadata. You can do whatever you want with it. We have no gates around it to prevent you from leaving or prevent you from taking that metadata wherever you want to go. Second is automation. So popularity, ERDs, lineage, all of this happens automatically on the back end. Nothing you need to do to set it up or get it working. We also have a lot of functionality, which I'll highlight on the demo, about speeding up the curation of your data. So auto documentation, suggested tags, things that really reduce the time it takes for a data team to get a data catalog up and running and start delivering value for your org. And then third is that we have an easy to use UI. We do provide training for some of our customers, but for a lot of them, they don't need it. They're able to just onboard folks. They can pick it up really easily, regardless of if they're, super technical, data literate, data engineer, or they're someone in a business function who's never written a code of SQL in their life. They're still able to use SelectStar and figure it out really quickly, which is ultimately leads to adoption and ROI for your investment. Next is the level of insights we provide. So we hear from customers who compare SelectStar to other platforms that we provide the most complete and most accurate column level lineage. And that's hard to vet until you compare multiple tools. But our query parser has been developed over time, picking up all these edge cases to the point where we're able to display lineage for very complex data models, hundreds of thousands of tables, millions of queries. We're able to go through all of that and display it in a very intuitive and easy to digest way. We're the only people who extract ERDs based on the query logs themselves. So other tools will build an ERD for you off of the primary keys and foreign keys you've defined. But if you don't have foreign keys, you're not able to generate an ERD. And we're able to do it regardless, which is really powerful because you can see not how do I want data to be joined, but how is it actually being joined in my organization. Popularity and usage provide full visibility into how data is being consumed. And then we also have a semantic layer for building out a business glossary and storing key metrics to get all of your knowledge about data into a single platform. And then lastly, on the zero management side, it's set it and forget it. You set up your data sources and we will continuously extract your metadata. So you don't have to worry about making changes to your underlying schema and having to push that into SelectStar. We're going to pick all of that up automatically. We're low cost. We have one price regardless of user type. So you can have viewers, data managers, admins. We're not going to charge you extra just to have people be able to participate in data management and documentation. We actually believe crowdsourcing is a really powerful tool, and we encourage all of our customers to take advantage of that. And as I mentioned earlier, we don't have any additional infrastructure or admin costs because we host and manage everything on our end. And then lastly, we're very secure. We're SOC 2, HIPAA compliant. We host everything on AWS, which has the best security in the business. So we don't have any security issues to date. And because we're only accessing metadata, it means we're never going to have an impact on your production environment.
I was about to ask you about the security, but I'm glad you brought it up. That's good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. We hate doing security questionnaires because they're painful, but we love doing them because we always get approved.
Makes sense. Perfect.
Yeah.
So
It's a common thing we always bring up on the show, not just on the show, but everywhere. The shared security model or shared responsibility model. Yeah, if your AWS is secure, Select Star is secure, then it's on you to make sure that what you run is secure. But if you're using AWS and Select Star, it sounds like everything else the rest is on you to make sure that your stuff in the cloud is compliant and secure. But everything of the cloud, we're good to go.
Exactly. So I included a couple quotes from customers. I think the important thing to take away is just that we work with a variety of different types of businesses. So, really large, complex data organizations like Pitney Bowes, who are managing billions of transactions a day, all the way down to startups like Anvil that have 50 to 100 person teams and are trying to really be a data-driven organization. SelectStar scales up and down as necessary. And we've got customers that run the gamut across industries as well as across business size. All right, so those are all the slides. Thanks for bearing with me. Happy to jump into the demo, but just want to pause and see if there were any questions or things that came up.
Let me give it a look.
We don't have any questions yet. We did have a comment saying thanking us for coming on, because as I said, I love doing the show because we get to see stuff in action rather than just the diagrams and the the one pagers and all that stuff. So this is the best part for me, is the demo we're gonna do. Yeah, and so if you're just tuning in right now, we're joined with SelectStar. They're going to show us their automated data discovery platform. I especially like that it's simple and zero management. That's one of the things that people, one of the headwinds people have is, how much do I have to get involved with things, and do I have to learn a whole new system? Yeah, so those perked my ears up for sure.
Awesome. All right, can you see SelectStar now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe if you can make it a little bit bigger, if it's possible.
This, I think, is as big as it gets. Let me see if I can zoom in a little. Is that better?
Yeah, as long as you can still work, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Cool. So SelectStar, we're fully SaaS. The way you're going to access it is through your browser, just app.selectstar.com. We host everything in AWS, as I mentioned before. And just real quick, the way to get started would be to go to our website. You can sign up for a free trial, and it's going to ask you to create an organization and then connect your data sources. So when you connect a data source, all you have to do is create a service account and provide us with specific read-only permissions, which are all laid out in our docs, to system logs, user logs, and query logs. And then you're going to tell us which databases, which schemas you want us to ingest, which projects from your BI tools, and SelectStar is going to do the rest. In 24 hours, you'll have a fully loaded instance ready to go. So just to orient you a little bit, on the home screen, you'll be able to see new data sets, your all-time most popular data sets, recent activities that you've taken. And on the left-hand side, we've got a couple different options here. So data will allow you to navigate between your different data sources. As you can see, we support the majority of the modern data stack, Snowflake, Redshift, Postgres, Databricks, most of the modern BI tools, and S3 will be online very soon. We've got docs for managing documentation, metrics, tags for curated data sets, teams, so you can see who's accessing SelectStar, see what they own, what they're using frequently, and then favorites, which is basically personal bookmarks, so you can come back to the data you use really easily. But where I like to start is with search, because when you think about data discovery, the most important thing is finding the data that you're looking for. So we have a universal search that goes across all your data sources at once. So I can search for orders here, and you can see there's a lot of hits for something related to orders. And what we do is we don't just match on object name or documentation or tags, but we index everything based on the popularity score that we're calculating for your data. And that's really powerful because it helps us cut through the signal to noise ratio and show you the data that's most relevant, that's most likely what you're looking for. So the fact that this orders table is really popular, it means this, if I'm looking for something related to orders, it's probably the right one versus something that was created yesterday, that was queried by one person for like some side project. I don't want to build something on top of that and rely on that data set. I want to use the canonical orders data that everyone in the org is using. And this popularity score is automatically calculated by looking at the number of times something is queried, as well as the number of distinct users who have queried that object. And that's referencing the underlying data source. So it's not how many times has someone looked at this in SelectStar, it's how many times has someone queried it in Redshift.
So these are the pre-existing data sets you were showing, like, for example, the orders one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're not creating data sets in SelectStar. You would create your data set in your data warehouse. And what we're doing is we're just creating a portal that allows everyone to easily find what data exists and understand all the context behind it.
Nice. Okay.
So I'm going to click into this one in a second, but you can also filter really easily in SelectStar. So if I know I'm looking for a table, I can drill down just into my data warehouses and look at tables. If I know I'm looking for a Tableau dashboard, I could come to Tableau and only look at dashboards and views. I can also look through SelectStar metadata like documents and metrics that have been created. And I can even search through conversations that have happened. So if anyone leaves a question or a comment, that's all going to become searchable in SelectStar so that you don't have to answer questions more than once. It all gets memorialized. So opening up a table here, and I'm going to walk through Snowflake just because that's where the majority of our test data is built out. But you can see I can flip over to Redshift, and it's going to look really similar when I pull up a table. You're going to see all the same things that you would have in Snowflake. The functionality is identical. So I think because I zoomed in, my columns got a little smushed here. But what you'll be able to see is all of the columns in a given table. You'll be able to see documentation, any tags that have been added in. You can also add in custom attributes. So if you want to keep a separate business name versus the name that's actually in the database, you can create those custom attributes here. I'm just moving them out so that they don't crowd the screen here. Tags, and then also popularity at the column level. So looking at a table, you can see which columns are actually being queried and how often.
Okay, I can see 165 times by 4 users. That's good information. Okay.
Yeah. And so that popularity score, it's going to be based on the last 90 days. It'll be a trailing 90-day rolling window. Because if something was queried a bunch last year and hasn't been used since then, it's not really popular anymore. So we want to make sure that that's current.
Makes sense.
A couple other things. So if I flip over to the overview tab, you can see documentation for the table as a whole. This documentation will automatically get ingested from your data sources. So if you have data documented in Redshift or in Snowflake or in dbt or in your BI tool, we're automatically going to pull that into SelectStar. You don't need to waste effort and time duplicating that information. If you don't have it there, if it lives in an Excel file or a Google Sheet, you can do a bulk upload via CSV. You can also programmatically write documentation via our API. And if you're using SelectStar to generate your documentation, it's really easy to come in here and edit it directly in the UI.
Okay, so just to rephrase, it can be exported into a CSV format.
It can be imported from a CSV.
Sorry, okay, my bad. Sorry, yeah, okay.
You can also export to a CSV, but what I was referencing was the use case where some companies, they may say, hey, we need to start documenting our data. We don't have a data catalog yet. let's create a Google Sheet and we'll have all of our data engineers fill this out. Now, that's not great because if your table changes, that Google Sheet doesn't know. It's not going to automatically update.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. Makes sense.
Couple other things I'll call out here. So we won't just tell you the popularity of the table. We'll tell you the last time it was updated. So the structure of your table was changed. We'll also tell you the last time the data was refreshed. So how current is the data you're looking at, the table size, as well as how the table was generated. So this table is generated by a DBT model and it links directly there. But if we were to look at a different data set that was generated by like a standard SQL query, you'll see the SQL button and you can pull up the actual code that generated the table. So now I know exactly what's happening underneath, any transformations, any joins, to really dig into what's going on with my data.
I love that. Yeah. Seeing, yeah, it's always gives a little bit extra that. So how does it do that? Does it generate it based on what came in, or does it generate that SQL code based upon code that was put in, or how does it get that code?
It's all coming from the query logs that we're able to extract from your underlying data sources. So when a query is executed in Redshift, it gets logged, and then we're able to determine this is the create statement that relates to this specific table, and here are the other tables it's pulling from, and that's how we generate lineage and all these insights.
God, yeah, that's so cool. I love it.
So we're parsing all of the queries that are happening. You can also assign owners. So for data governance, data management, you can have both a business owner and a technical owner, which we view as important because you might have a business owner who understands the logic, the reason why we have this data, how it's being used, but they didn't set up the data pipeline. They don't know how to fix something if it's broken. So you also want to have that technical counterpart who can be responsible for maintaining the underlying code. And this can be either a person or a team, and they'll get notified in SelectStar, via email, and Slack if you have it configured, whenever someone makes a change to the metadata or leaves a comment or question, so that way they can verify that, hey, this documentation is correct. And you don't have to worry about tracking down who's the subject matter expert on this data. It's already specified. So going back to the columns tab here, I've talked about this a couple times, but we're going to generate column level lineage for all of your data. And if I click on a column, it's going to pull up the lineage for this specific field. So this is a source table. There's nothing upstream of it. But if I look downstream, I can see everywhere in my data model where this data is going. And I can even see how it's being propagated. So is this data coming as is? Is it a direct select? Is it being aggregated? So summed up or counted or averaged? Is it being transformed? Are we changing, pulling the year out of a full date? Or is it being used as a filter for a field? So you can understand the business logic behind your data, as well as what the impact would be for making a change. So a use case that comes up all the time with customers is, I want to change something in my data model, and I have no idea what reports are going to break if I delete this field. Well, with the click of a button, you can see there's 36 charts that depend on this order ID field. Here's how popular they are. Here's the specific elements within the dashboards that rely on it. So if you need to make a change or something goes down, you know who's going to be impacted. What do I need to do to prevent a data outage in my organization?
This is a bliss. Great. Okay.
All of this information is available graphically. So if I click on the Explore tab, it's going to pull up a lineage graph. So this is the same information we were just looking at, but oftentimes it's easier to understand it when you visualize it. And so because I started on order ID, this field is pinned, but I can unpin it. And now I've got my full table lineage. And what I can do is I can hover and it's going to change the focus to see different columns. I can add in dashboards to get my BI tools turned on. And then I can come down through transformation layer, down through Tableau, through the published data sources, embedded data sources, all the way down to my dashboards and then see exactly how this data is flowing and where it's coming from.
So you're saying this can, on the end side, this can be a good sourceful information for the stakeholders to look at in a report format, like what is going and what not.
Yeah, if I'm an executive and I say,
Right.
oh, this number looks off, I wouldn't expect it to be what it is. I can come in here if I know the data model and understand, oh, we're pulling from the wrong field, or we shouldn't be summing this, it should be a direct count. But also for data engineers, for that change management, they can come in and see, okay, when I change this, this is how the data flows and where it eventually lands. Or if I'm trying to compare two different reports, I can see, hey, is this pulling from the same underlying data set? If the marketing team's calculating churn and the finance team's calculating churn and they're coming up with different numbers, you want to be able to triage that and figure out how can we make these numbers align, because they should be identical. So because we know the lineage of your data, we can layer on a lot of functionality to help speed up the curation of your data. So you can propagate tags based on lineage, and tags are meant to tell you more information about that data. We support two different kinds of tags: category tags, which are meant for different data domains. So is this for the finance team or the marketing team or the sales team or product A or product B? And then also status tags, which tell you more information about that data. How is it being used? How should it be used? Does it contain PII? Is this field designated to be deprecated? It's going to go away in a week. You shouldn't use it. A lot of customers might have like bronze, silver, gold level data classification for how much they cleanse their data. Or if something's been approved for reporting, hey, I can go and use this data. I don't have to ask the data team. Tags are fully customizable. You can have any structure or hierarchy you want. And when you come in to add a tag, you can push that tag all the way downstream into your BI tools. So rather than having to find every place where order ID exists, I can just propagate this tag all at once. The other thing we do is where we detect your data is propagated as is. So again, that means it's a direct select. There's no aggregation, no transformation happening. By definition, the data is the same. So the documentation should be the same. So we'll automatically suggest tags on data sets that are as is anywhere in the lineage chain. And we'll also auto suggest documentation. So this order ID field, it's in gray. It's because it doesn't actually have any documentation in this table. But as I hover, I can see it's been auto-filled from elsewhere in the data model based on the lineage of the data. So we can really speed up the curation of your data catalog, the creation of the data dictionary, and we see over 2 times the fill rate for column level documentation for customers using this feature.
Hey, Alec, we're wondering about governance. I heard from a birdie that it might be able to inform me if my governance model is working. Can you speak to that at all? Or?
Yeah, sure. So from a governance perspective, there's a couple things you might want to be looking into. First is the data accurate? Is it up to date? So going over to the overview tab, you can see when's the last time it was updated, when's the last time was it refreshed. So do we currently have current data that people should be relying on? Depending on the schedule of the job, this can tell you if it's working or if it's not. Next, from a governance perspective, you may want to understand what is the data that we actually have. And so that's what documentation's for. That's what tags are for. So you can track all of that data. And then also you want to understand, how's the data being used? Who's consuming it? Do I have the right policies in place in Redshift, in AWS, to limit the access of this data to the right people? So you can see who's actually using your data. So I can come in here and see that there were 5 users of this data. Here's how often they used it. Here's the last time they ran. But also who's using this data at a dashboard level. because oftentimes this is going to be obfuscated by your BI service account. When I log into Looker and I pull up a dashboard, Looker is querying Redshift or Snowflake, and that comes through as the service account. So you wouldn't have that if you were just looking at the data warehouse. You wouldn't be able to understand usage at that consumption layer within the BI tool. But because we connect to BI tools, we're able to overlay top dashboard users. So I can see who's actually running queries against this data or reports against this data, even within my BI tools. Couple other things I'll touch on while we're looking at a table. So we'll show popular queries, popular joins, and recent queries. So you can click in and see how are these queries structured. You can see runtime, who ran them. So in a different view that we're not going to cover, you can sort all your queries in Redshift or in Snowflake by runtime to find what are the most expensive queries being run. How can I optimize that? Do we need to run these as frequently to save on your data warehouse costs?
Oh, that's awesome. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna jump in. That's super cool that it would identify that for you and help you out in that way. The it can identify those costs like based upon the provider or the like. How does that work? That's
So we don't actually get down to like a hard dollar value today, but looking at runtime, that's a pretty good proxy for compute in the amount of credits you're using for a given query, as well as the size of the data that it's querying, and all that information is available from the logs.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I know that that's always for everybody is how much does it cost? How much does it cost? How much, like, that's what drives so many decisions for sure.
Yeah. And we've got more functionality planned for later this year around optimizing costs for your data warehouse. So there's a couple manual workflows in SelectStar today, but there are plans for like features directly focused on data warehouse cost optimization. And I'm seeing a question in the chat. We're on Databricks on AWS. We do integrate with Databricks Unity Catalog. It's relatively new, but we've got customers up and running on it. Functionality is very similar to Snowflake or to Redshift. I don't know. Oh yeah, we got it connected here. So I don't think we have a ton of data built out in it yet, but you can come in and you can see all your columns, all that information that we were showing for the other data warehouses. It all works exactly the same with Databricks. So what the last thing I wanted to show you on that orders table though is I think popular queries are interesting, but in my mind, what's actually more impactful is popular joins. So if I'm a data analyst and I'm new to the data model, I want to understand how is this table frequently used with other data sets? What's the art of the possible for the analyses I can run? So you can see exactly how this table is joined to, other tables. You can click in, you can see the code, but we'll also generate an entity relationship diagram automatically. So this is not lineage, even though it looks similar. Now we're looking at the joins happening on your data model, and you can see exactly how the orders table is used to join to other data sets. And again, we're going to do this automatically based on the query logs. So you don't have to worry about primary keys and foreign keys. If you have them, great, we'll leverage them, but we can extract this information directly. So that one means it's going to work out of the box. Two, it means it's going to give you the actual state of your data model, not this utopian state that people might not be following. And three, you're going to be able to identify incorrect joins. So this field, order estimated delivery date, is a date. It's being joined to system information ID, which is a number. I'm no data expert, but my gut tells me that's probably an incorrect join. I'm going to want to figure out what's happening there and get that fixed. The last thing here is that we have a discussion tab. So we talked about this earlier. When people have questions, they throw it into Slack and hope someone replies. With SelectStar, you can ask the questions directly on the data asset itself. Owners will get notified automatically, and all this information gets saved so that people don't have to answer the same question multiple times. I'm sure data
That's
teams deal with it all the time.
Indeed, that's a great feature. Let me rephrase that there is a definitely named owner where the question is supposed to divert it. Don't have to get multiple times repeated. I have been in that part and a situation that I have to find the people, and this is a great feature. I would definitely would like to.
Oh, I'm dying. I'm laughing so hard at that because that's so true. Like it's like shouting into the void. Like when you just, that's so good. I love it.
Thank you.
Everyone has that data Slack channel, which is just chaos.
Help.
Yes.
So not only will the owners get notified automatically, and if you have the Slack app added in, they can reply directly in Slack to create a thread here. But you can also use what we call mentions. It's just the @ sign. So I could mention, okay, maybe not Sean, but I could mention Miguel, for instance. So even though he's not the owner, I can come in here and I can mention Miguel, and now he's going to get notified that, hey, this is the table you were looking for. I can just point him to it. The other thing you can do
That's
is you can mention other data assets. So maybe he should be looking at order items. I can create a direct link there so he can now navigate back and forth. So you can use those mentions to create that web of knowledge within SelectStar.
Or you can message Miguel saying, don't take too long breaks.
Exactly. Yeah, hurry up. And then we do have a preview tab. So if you want, you can enable this. By default, it's turned off because we don't have access to data values. But if you want, you can enable a preview tab. It requires a little more permissions to be granted to our service account. And what we'll then be able to do is show you basically a SelectStar limit 10 of your data so people can get a sense for what does the data in this table actually look like. And you'll notice that 2 of these fields are entirely masked. And that's because they've been tagged as PII. So wherever a field is tagged as PII, we'll mask any values that might show up in SelectStar on the preview tab. But also, if you were to be looking at a query or a join where someone queried that field directly, I thought I had one here. It was the wrong field. So, if someone wrote a query where they were pulling everything with an order ID of X or Y, we're going to mask that from the queries as well. So that way, whatever's PII, you don't ever have to worry about that information being exposed within SelectStar. Zooming out, you can look at your database as a whole. So this is really helpful for when you're getting started or if you're just trying to manage your data model. Use popularity to identify what's the most important data in my data model or what has the most downstream dependencies. This is a great place to start when you're implementing governance and management for the first time. It can feel a lot like eating an elephant. You've got hundreds or thousands of tables. They all need to be documented. They all need ownership. But the reality of it is all tables aren't created equal. You're going to get 90% of the value from proper data governance and management on 10% of your tables. And you can figure that out really easily within SelectStar. You can also filter for things like no popularity. So what tables haven't been queried in the past 90 days? Maybe no one's using them. This is a great candidate for deprecating tables. Again, saving money on your storage costs.
Yeah, I was about to ask you about the hygiene practices. How do you maintain the data which is not relevant anymore? It sunsets automatically itself depending on the popularity charts or
No, so we're never gonna impact your source application. So we're never gonna delete data from Redshift.
Great.
We're never gonna change that. But what you can do is really easily figure out what could I delete? What data do we have that's no longer being used? And this popularity score will update every day. We're looking at the past 90 days.
Okay.
So It's a great way to understand what's no longer being used, and then you can go and sunset it in your source applications. When you remove that data from Redshift, the next day it's going to be gone from SelectStar. So you don't have to remove it in 2 places.
This is awesome. Okay, great.
This is also a great place to start adding in tags and owners. So you can add tags based on lineage, as I showed you earlier, but you can also filter by naming convention, and you can do this either for tables or you can flip the view to columns, and then you can add tags in bulk. So even the manual curation in SelectStar, we have a lot of functionality to speed that up. You can also use our API to add in tags or add in owners. So you can do it programmatically as well. You can also generate a custom ERD for multiple tables. So say I've got these 4 tables and I want to see how they're all interconnected. I can come in here, generate an ERD, and now I'm going to see not just for one table, but everything that I just selected and how it's all joined together. So once you've got your tags added in, you can navigate to the tags page and see all the data by its different domains or classifications. So if I'm on the sales team, I can come directly to the sales data, and I can see all the data assets that have been designated for use by the sales team. So you see, we've got all these Redshift tables. I should know this is the data I should be looking at. You can also nest tags to create additional structure to your hierarchy, however you want. It's all customizable. We also have documentation, so standalone docs. And we have 2 different types of docs. The first we just call a document. This is semantic level description, very flexible. It can be used for an onboarding document, which is what we're looking at here. It could be a change log. It could be your standard business glossary of terms, or it could be process design. How frequently are tables run? What are the tests they undergo? Things that might apply to multiple tables might be too detailed to put in a table overview. So you can create these docs. We support Markdown. You can add hyperlinks outside of SelectStar. You can add tables, images, code blocks, etc. But importantly, you can use that mention sign to link to other data assets within SelectStar. So the revenue table is mentioned here. And on the overview tab, it's going to tell me that this table's been mentioned by 2 documents. So I know I should go here to learn more. So rather than having a Notion page with all this information that is not connected to your data, you can directly associate documentation and information with the data that it relates to. And we'll do that both for tables and for columns. So on the orders table here, you can see this is mentioned. This means that it exists in a document, but we also have metrics. So you can create a metric for the specific KPIs you're trying to track. What are the most important metrics we want to drive alignment on across our organization? Define them, establish why it's important, what's the question we're answering, how is it calculated, and then you can link it to a specific field or value in the data model. You can also call out different dimensions. So how do we want to slice and dice this data, as well as we'll automatically surface all the dashboards that house that metric so people know where to go to consume them.
Hey, Alec, we got a question for you. Also, first off, are you okay? What's going on out there?
Yeah, sorry. I live in New York City and I'm on the first floor, so I get all the sirens, all the noise, so apologies for that.
No, that's enough said with that.
The recent one is my kind of question. I would love to have an answer on that one as well.
Yeah, Schizobol's asking, does the popularity of a table take into account queries received on a view declared on top of that table?
Yeah, so if a view is, whenever it's generated or materialized, that will count towards the popularity of the underlying table. But if it already exists and that data is within that view, the popularity would count against that view. So it's really whenever there's a query. So as that view gets refreshed, that's going to count as popularity against the table. But if you're just pulling data that's already in that view from it to a BI tool, that would go towards the popularity of the view.
Okay.
And I'm not a data engineer, so I hope I answered that correctly.
Are any of us really data engineers, though? It's like a hypothetical question.
Yeah. So a couple more things I just want to show. We've got teams, so you can come in and see how different teams are interacting with your data. You can see who the team members are. You can see what they've favorited. So what data do they rely on? What do they own? So if I'm a new user, I don't have to bug the power user about what data does she rely on all the time. I can come in here and figure that out on my own. And then I also want to show what BI tools look like in SelectStar, because most of our customers connect not just a data warehouse, but also the analytics tool. So if I come into Looker, for example, you can see all the explorers, again, very similar to how the data warehouse looks. You can see all your dashboards, you can see all your views. Really just depends on the structure of the BI tool. We have direct integrations with all of them that creates those specific structure required. And if I go over to Tableau here, I can open up a dashboard. So I can see all the views. I can see the popularity at the individual view level. I can jump into Lineage to see exactly where this data is coming from. We'll summarize the source tables. So what's the last step in the data warehouse that data is leaving to go into your BI tool? Or you can go through the individual steps. So through a embedded data source, through a published data source, through the query down to the warehouse. You can also always jump into the Explorer and work back upstream. Same information we were looking at earlier. Just now we're starting at the BI tool and going up instead of starting at the warehouse and going down. We have a direct integration with all of our BI tools. So I can open this directly in Tableau. And I don't know if I'm logged in, so we'll see if it pulls up. I gotta validate here.
While we're doing that, Alec, maybe I'll touch on this later, but you brought up Teams a second ago, and that made me think of how do I say it? How does like permissions and like kind of logging of work in SelectStar, is there something that handles that? Like say someone just completely goes in and just messes everything up. Am I able to find out who the heck did that? Or
yeah, so you can see in activity log, which I think I minimized, but you can see recent activity here. We've got all of this on the back end, so it's not all fully exposed in the UI yet, but we have plans for a metadata change log, which will be released very soon. And remember, owners are going to get notified whenever someone makes a change to their data set. So they're going to be told, hey, so-and-so came in and updated this field.
yeah.
You can have multiple owners.
Sorry?
You can have multiple owners.
Yeah, so owners can be either an individual or a team.
Okay.
And business and technical owners. We also have different permission levels. So you can have viewer access, data manager access, or admin access. Viewers can consume data. They can leave comments and questions, but they can't alter metadata. Data managers can do pretty much everything in SelectStar. They can change documentation, add tags, create metrics, etc. But they can't provision users and they can't provision data sources. And then admins can do everything. They can change user permissions. They can add a data source, remove a schema, etc. And by default, everyone has the same level of access in SelectStar. And what I mean by that is everyone sees everything. So if I'm a viewer or a data manager or an admin, I'm still going to see all the same data in SelectStar. But we recently released permission-based access control. So you can declare specific policies at the team or user level for what level of access they have at the data source, database, schema, table level, so that you can prohibit people from seeing something at all or make them data managers on certain things and only viewers on others. We actually think SelectStar is a great place to expose people to data that they might not have permission to in the data warehouse. Obviously, HR data aside, but because you don't have access to the data values, it's a great way for people to be able to discover data and then know, hey, this exists. I should go request access for it. So just wrapping up on Tableau, we've got that direct integration. So you can launch directly into a dashboard straight from SelectStar. And when you're in your BI tools or in your browser, you could be in Snowflake. If you have a question, you might not want to Alt Tab or open up a new window. So we have a SelectStar Chrome extension, which will allow you to pull up all of that information in SelectStar directly from your browser. It's going to auto load on the dashboard that you have on your screen, so you don't have to search around it all. And now I can see all that information that was in SelectStar directly in my browser as I'm working with a dashboard.
That's convenient. Very nice.
Yep. So that's the high level overview. Happy to answer any questions about the demo, the product, the company. That's pretty much what we had prepared for today.
Awesome. That was great. I love seeing this stuff in action. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I asked most of mine during the show. Sarah, can you think of anything?
I can think of one thing. I miss Sean. Let's bring him on.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Let's bring Sean back. Maybe he has a few things for
We
sure.
can give Alec a break.
Hello again. Welcome back.
There he is. Sean, you're on mute.
You're on mute, bud.
Of course I am. No, glad to be back. And what a great session from Alec there, taking us through the product and really contextualizing it to like real life pain points, not only that data engineers have, but talking about the data analysts and, you know, all of their requests and the data engineers. So I always go back to a famous tweet from Josh Wills, who was the head of data engineering at Slack, who said, what do data scientists talk about on their lunch break? How they can hire more data engineers. So those people have so much on their plate, giving more power to the data analysts to just let them kind of go forth, discover, and make the right decision. And when they do ask the data engineer, you know, make that an informed question that they can execute on. So really, really great. I did want to mention a couple ways that people can find out more about SelectStar. As Alec mentioned in his presentation, one of the reasons that our customers love us is it is just so easy to get started with our platform. You can visit our website today. One click into the website, I provided the direct link here. You get started on that 14-day trial. Now, the trial is limited in the number of data sources that you connect to, the number of tables that you can utilize, as well as the number of users that you can have in your account. But we really think we've given you enough horsepower to really suss out the value of the platform and understand if this is going to be more readily applicable for you. And we don't just launch you right into, you know, a full-scale, conversation from there. We go, straight to, multiple levels that really match your usage and adoption of data discovery inside of your platform. So encourage you to come over to the website, get started today. And that can be quite a kind of daunting task if it's your first time in data discovery. So we've also provided a specialized link where we can set you up with a one-on-one consultation with people on our team. These guys are expert in modern data discovery, and they'll walk you through connecting that first data source and really getting you going with the SelectStar platform. And hopefully after that, you can be up and discoverable, in a matter of minutes, definitely less than an hour. And I do want to mention, given the ties to our great partner, AWS, that is one way to consume our product. You can also consume our product directly through the Amazon Web Services Marketplace. Encourage you to do that. If you're already in the ecosystem, you're already developing AWS services, just look us through your AWS portal. We can be deployed directly for there. Last thing I will mention is a lot of the stuff that Alec talked about today in terms of the mind shift required going from like centralized data catalog, enterprise data cataloging to automated data discovery, really kind of represents a new kind of mindset in modern data management. And for just education on what's that all about, how should I be thinking differently about these new types of challenges associated with the modern data stack? visit our website. We have a content hub. It includes podcasts, videos, interviews with our founder, more from Alec. And so we'd love for you to just come get educated on what we're seeing in the market here.
Yeah, Sean, I'm so glad you brought up the marketplace. That was that's on me. I totally forgot. I don't know. It just slipped my mind. Marketplace is like the best. It makes everything so easy. Yeah. Fire everything up. I'm actually a little upset at myself. I didn't even think of that for some reason. I dropped that in the chat for sure. The link.
And to think about it, when Alec talked about like the kind of FinOps aspects of understanding how your queries are running and saving on the infrastructure and runtime costs, you can then just use those credits that you saved on additional Select Star, right? So just really easy to kind of strike the balance there.
Yeah, that's really yeah.
I would love if that was a trend that we're seeing. So
yeah. And so anyone watching, go ahead and check out this link here to selectstar.com/twitch-aws. They provided to us custom. Go ahead and sign up there and do a free consultation one-on-one. What is that like exactly if they sign up for that? They're going to meet Alec in person? You're going to fly out to New York? Or?
I don't know that we're doing in person yet. Still. Although, if you want, I'm happy to. I need those frequent flyer miles. But what we'll do is we'll set up a call, probably with myself, but also we have a team of really skilled sales engineers, come from working at Fivetran and analytics tools who really understand the needs of modern data teams. And we can talk through your architecture, talk through the use cases, the personas you want to empower, and just kind of level set on what you guys need and see if SelectStar might be a fit. If it is, great. We're happy to set you up with the trial. If it's not, great. Hopefully you come away learning a little bit, and we might too.
Nice. Yeah. You can always. It's great to always meet people, and then maybe you learn of a new use case that you can always engineer for in the future or something like that. Like I know here at AWS, a lot of our stuff we build comes from customer requests, and so I'm sure even if that weird reason SelectStar wasn't a fit, they could build something that it was a request as part of it.
Yeah, our roadmap is always prioritized based on customer needs. So if something is a need, we'll investigate it, and if we think it might serve you and other folks, we're happy to look into building it.
Awesome. Well, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. Is there anything else? Sean, what is that speaker in the background? What do you got going in there? Are you like a PA announcer or something?
Oh, no, unfortunately, space is limited in my house. So this is also my recording studio. What you see behind me are vinyl records. But what's much more common over the last couple of years is making music for podcast intros and online videos. So if you're watching a tech video, there's a small chance that's me behind the helm there.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you do the SelectStar commercials?
I'm new to SelectStar. It's only been here 4 weeks, but look, if they need to edit a video, it might just end up with music in the background.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll hit you up to get a new intro music for this show.
I love working on it because then I only have to produce 30 seconds worth of music. All the really boring parts you cut out of the process. So it's my favorite thing.
There was that Super Bowl commercial that really highlighted the hold music.
Yeah.
You guys saw that one.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, I'd love to do hold music. That'd be fantastic.
And it's the same exact story. I looked it up. It was just two guys that made a song way back in the day, and then one started working for another company, and they're like, "Hey, we need a placeholder for project," and then he bottomed out and the rights and just kept it. That's crazy. We have another question in the chat that came up actually. What is the culture? What is the culture at SelectStar? What do you guys? Are you all remote? Are you all hybrid? What do you guys do? I don't know if that's the question, but
so we're fully remote, which we work a lot async. we try to align for like at least 3 hours a day where everyone in the team is on. And that's really important because we're really collaborative. We do all hands every week. There's, a lot of transparency from the top down. And, the things we value are being transparent, being an owner. We're a small team. I think we're around 25 people right now, Sean. And so, there's a lot to get done. Everyone has a lot of responsibility, but we're all working together. And it's been a really exciting place to work for the past year for me, and hopefully the past 4 weeks for Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. Alec can give you the kind of historical. My main impression is it's been really just impressive to see the speed of which the engineering team and the other teams kind of pull together to develop these features for end customers. I feel like sometimes we're on a call with the customer and they're saying we really need this feature, and we're spending those weekly sprints talking about how we're going to solve it, and a couple of weeks later there it is in the platform. So I think that's what's really needed. I mean, this is data discovery is kind of moving at a feverish pace. So in order to keep up the demands of our customers and the ecosystem, we just got to iterate quickly. And I'm just so happy that we have the team that's well equipped to do that.
Start talk how small isn't the right word, but that's the word we use. You guys were like how and how big you are for how small you are, I guess is the way to say it. I'm even more impressed now. This is great. Sarah, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Not specifically, but it was a wonderful presentation. What can I say? Data is the new oil, and we have currently in this era so much of it. It's hard to contain, and what a wonderful way to understand it, contain it, and utilize it in a more efficient manner with Select Star. That's all I can think of right now. But yet, I'm still going to find some data to find the Krusty Krab recipe, which no one has ever found.
Oh.
So let's see.
I've never heard that expression. Data is the new oil. That's true. I mean, that's pretty good.
We have so much of it, it's hard to contain. And this is a wonderful way to understand it better. And it was a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great. Well, with that, I will see everyone. We'll see everyone next week. Come back and join us again. I believe we have next week. I believe we had Q-Braid coming on to join us, and that'll be fun. And Alec and Sean, Select Stars, welcome to come back on anytime that they want to. But other than that, I guess I'll just say happy trails, and it was good seeing you guys. The child yelling.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
All right. See you, everybody.
Take care. Bye.